What's up, Rangers Nation? It's Alex Plink with Dallas Sports Fanatic, and this is Texas Rangers Fanatic Podcast, episode 15. It's been a while since the in-between episode 14 and episode 15. In fact, an entire postseason's worth of time in between. But I am back, and boy, was it an entertaining postseason as we crowned the Los Angeles Dodgers the 2020 World Series champion on Globe Life Field. We'll kind of discuss as far as Globe Life Field and its host as far as the 2020 postseason. Getting to watch the entire Los Angeles Dodgers run to a World Series crowd. Congratulations to the Dodgers, who win their first championship in 32 years. Congratulations to the Tampa Bay Rays for being the American League champion. And give a shout out to all the participants in the 2020 postseason, making it a very entertaining postseason to say the least. I don't want to look at my prediction sheet because it's pretty bad. I don't even want to look at it because, I will say this. I do kind of want to look at it because I want to laugh at myself, but also the fact that I picked the Los Angeles Dodgers to win in 6 games. That's a correct prediction, and that's probably the only correct prediction I had made because I had the White Sox and Indians playing in the ALCS, and both of them didn't even make it out of the wild card rounds. So I had 3 Central teams making it to the ALDS, and a grand total of 0 made it. In fact, I had 5 Central teams, if you want to count the Cubs and the Reds, and none of them made it. It was truly a masterpiece of failure. Out of the 8 teams, the only 3 I got right, Dodgers, Padres, and Rays, and the Rays losing the division series to Cleveland, that obviously didn't happen. But I can take comfort in saying that I did pick a Game 7 in the ALCS, even though it was the wrong teams. And I did pick the Los Angeles Dodgers to win in 6 games. So can I just have that? It's like in the NCAA tournament when you pick all the wrong teams in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, and it's a mess until you get to the NCAA finals and you pick the right team to win the national title, even though everything else is wrong. So congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers. Congratulations to Texas natives, Clayton Kershaw, Max Muncy, Dustin May, all those guys. And interestingly enough, the Los Angeles Dodgers, not sure if they're actually leaving Arlington, and we will get to the craziness that is the aftermath of World Series Game 6, because why can't you end a COVID-shortened 2020 season with some COVID controversy, to say the least? I have no alliteration at the end of that, but I'm just trying to figure out where to go. Get started, and I think what I want to get started with, a little bit Texas Rangers news, not too much. Some free agents are free agents as of Wednesday, October 28th. Teams that were, or players that were at the end of their contracts or in the end of their deals, they are eligible for free agents. And of course, word that Corey Kluber, the Rangers will not pick up Kluber's team option, but they may try to negotiate a deal that would reduce Kluber's salary. We'll see how that goes. But it doesn't look like the Rangers they're expected to decline Kluber's team option. Also, on the pitching side, the Rangers have a co-pitching coach combination of Doug Mathis and Brendan Segura. I hope I said that right. Taking over for Julio Rangel. So the Rangers are going to try to go the co-captain route. Not really so much one captain, but the co-captain route. And I don't necessarily, I don't know how that's going to turn out. I think we'll see. I don't know if other teams have this, where they have co-pitching coaches or co-hitting coaches. I know you have a bullpen coach, and I know you have a catcher's coach but the fact that you have co-pitching coaches is a little strange. The word is that Doug Mathis will be inserted as far as dugout goes, and then Brandon Segura in the bullpen. But again, co-pitching coaches. So we'll see how that goes. I think that might create a little bit of confusion, and that could be a 1 year, I guess, tryout to see if it indeed works. Maybe the Rangers are onto something. Maybe you have co-pitching coaches and co-hitting coaches. I don't know. I do think it's kind of weird that that comes at a time where revenue is down for teams. So I figured you didn't want to spend too much, and maybe that's why this maybe works. Instead of going out and getting a high-strung pitching coach, you figure maybe you save money and get it two co-pitching coaches. I don't know. But I do want to send my congratulations to Mathis and Segura for their new rules as co-pitching coaches. And we'll see how the Rangers offseason goes. But the postseason has come and gone, and it was a very entertaining one, to say the least. The wild card, I really did like the wild card. I didn't like the timing, and I said this, I think, and again, we were going back a month ago. I didn't like the way the schedule was laid out, where a lot of games were playing during the daytime. I think they could have spread it out. And yes, they that's the one complaint I had. On the Wednesday where they had all 8 games, yeah, you had like 6 between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. And that's absolutely absurd. Not really anybody watched the Brewers and Dodgers because it started so late. And of course, you had the Yankees and Indians in prime time both of those days. It could have done a lot better, and I understand Major League Baseball wants to cater to the Yankee audience, but you can cater to the Yankee audience, have that game available. That's what the NCAA does most of the time. They don't change and rearrange times because Duke's playing. They'll have Duke in its primetime slot, and then you can insert as normal spacing in between games. Major League Baseball could have done that, and they failed to do that. I don't know if this is going to be a thing. Expanded playoffs, I personally, in a 162 game season, don't see it happening. I don't think the players want to see it happen unless you reduce the number of games in the regular season. I think you do the expanded, and it's a good little test run. I do like it, but in a 162 game season, I don't necessarily care for it. And then, of course, you had the division series playing in 5 consecutive days. Rays and Yankees played 5. I believe they played 5 straight days, if I'm not mistaken. But I know in the championship series, it was 7 straight days. Obviously, that's because you're in a bubble. But it was grueling, guys. Not saying it was a chore, but it was grueling. Like, you could tell in the players, it was very grueling to play 7 consecutive days for the Dodgers and Braves and for the Astros and the Rays. 7 straight days. And yes, that does happen on a Major League Baseball season, but the intensity of the postseason, it takes a lot out of you. So do I think, well, first of all, this isn't going to happen unless you have a neutral site field during the postseason, and I don't see that happening. I think you do lose out on revenue as far as the ballpark goes, and I think you lose out on attendance as well. The only reason that it was set as a bubble this year was because of the pandemic. But I will say this: let's ease into the Globe Life Field experience for the postseason. First of all, I want to give a big shout out to Chuck Morgan and Michael Gruber because they did a phenomenal job. I've never been to Dodger Stadium, so I don't know. I've never been to Dodger Stadium. I've never been to Petco Park. I've never been to, Truist Field now? Used to be SunTrust. And I've never been to Tropicana Field. So I can't make the distinction and say, oh, yeah, this is exactly how it sounds. And to be honest, I mean, hearing it on TV, I know it's not exactly how it sounds because I most of these ballparks, if not all of them, have a true organist. Well, while the Rangers do have an organist, you're playing pre-recorded sounds done by the respective stadiums. So you're playing pre-recorded music, pre-recorded sounds. It's not going to sound the same. And I think everybody going in understands. But how close it is, how it does it sound like you're playing at Dodger Stadium? I would say based on my TV experience, yes. I do think again the differences are in between what it sounds like are, I think, in ballpark, how it's being laid out, if it's pre-recorded or if it's live sounds. And it's impossible to replicate that. But I do want to give a shout out to both of them who did a fantastic job. Chuck Morgan, as always, and Michael Gruber in his first full year. Keep in mind, guys, like I know Grooves does Stars, he does Rough Riders, does occasional Mavericks, but baseball can be a different beast too. All of those sports are not alike. So for him to, in his first full season, and this was short notice too. This was a month before postseason started. Hey, you're gonna be doing postseason. I think this was even like not even a month. This was a couple weeks. Be like, hey, you're gonna be doing postseason, and this is how it's gonna be laid out. I mean, that's a tall task. That's a difficult task. At Globe Life Field, 16 postseason games are played at Globe Life Field, and coincidentally, the Dodgers played in all 16 of those, obviously, being in the NLDS against San Diego. Which brings me to a stat that I do want to bring up. So the Texas Rangers, and I tweeted this out, the Texas Rangers during the season played 30 competitive games at Globe Life Field. The Los Angeles Dodgers played 19 competitive games at Globe Life Field. And I say competitive, that does not count inter-squad games. That does not count exhibition games. I don't know how many inter-squad games the Rangers played at Globe Life Field. They played 2 exhibition games, obviously, against the Colorado Rockies. I don't count those. Which, yeah, you kind of should count them, but I think for this, basically the argument I'm making is that the Los Angeles Dodgers played about 67% of competitive games that the Texas Rangers did. It's absurd. It is really absurd. It's amazing. So the fact of the matter is that I feel like the Los Angeles Dodgers proved that Globe Life Field is not as big as people made it out to seem, which is very concerning when you look at the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers made it look like it's this huge ballpark where you can't get the baseball out. And granted, the ball does get knocked down, and it's not as easy as hitting it out as the old place. I think anybody will admit that. But the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Atlanta Braves, you'd say San Diego Padres too, the Tampa Bay Rays, proved that you can't hit a ball out of Globe Life Field. So I don't know if that creates any motivation next year or what. But I think what it proved is it is an even playing field, but it's a level playing field. It's not catered to specific pitching. You still have to make a pitch. And if you do clobber the baseball, you do have a chance to get it out. So I did like seeing that. As far as the postseason experience, it was a really, really strange one, to be honest with you. Just walking in, you have that postseason feel, and I will be honest with you guys, in my lifetime, because postseason tickets cost so much, and I'll let you in a little secret, I've only been to one postseason Rangers game. And if you read my 10-year history piece on the ALCS Game 6, you already know which game I'm talking about. And yes, the only postseason game I've ever been to in Texas Rangers history, and prior to this year, any history, was ALCS Game 6 2010 Rangers and Yankees. I have never been to another postseason game. So, yes, what a way for your only one to be. It's like, I mean, it's like saying I went to all 6 games of this World Series, and the only one I went to was Game 4. I mean, it's unbelievable. But so the bottom line is I wasn't it wasn't too much to compare and contrast. Obviously it's a neutral playing field too, or you can't see me, I'm using air quotes neutral because it was heavily induced by Dodger fans throughout all 3 rounds. But it did have sort of a different feel. It didn't feel like postseason baseball walking into the ballpark. It didn't feel like postseason baseball leaving the ballpark. And it didn't feel like postseason baseball until you really get to Game 3 of the National League Division Series. And when the Dodgers even celebrated, and I'll be honest with you guys, that series, Game 2 was incredible. And actually, Game 2 in the NLDS was fantastic from the 6th inning on. First 6 innings were pretty much the same thing, kind of bland. And it was not until the Cody Bellinger catch that really changed that game around. Game 1 was grueling. Game 3 was grueling. It was, I don't like to say it's a chore, but it did feel like a drag on. It was sometimes tough to watch. NLCS, I'll tell you what, NLCS was a great series. And keep in mind, Dodgers winning in 6 of the World Series, they were down 3-1 to the Atlanta Braves. So the fact of the matter is the Dodgers won 7 of their last 9 postseason games to win the World Series. So that's huge too. Got to see the 11-run top of the first inning LA put on Atlanta. And honestly, a series that just went back and forth and a great classic Game 7. I mean, Game 7 was amazing. I think it was one of the better Game 7s I've seen in a long time. And I don't want to say it's the best Game 7 ever. That title will go to the Indians and the Cubs World Series, but it was certainly a classic Game 7. But give it up for the Dodgers and give it up for the Braves for putting up a fight. That could be a great opposite side of the country rivalry between 2 National League teams. Braves are up and coming. They have a lot of young talent. I don't think you've seen the last of the Dodgers and Braves in postseason. And I see another NLCS in their future between the 2 of them. That could get really exciting because the Braves look to be the class of the NL East. And then, of course, we go to the World Series. First time getting a look at the Rays. The Rays is Scrappy Butch. Randy Arozarena. Keep that name in your minds. Dude hit 10 homers in the postseason. He is ridiculous. And it was fun watching him. But, guys, I feel like Game 4 of the World Series. I mean, that's incredible. And then, of course, the ending. I don't know what to make of Game 4. Other than it was probably one of the greatest games I've seen in a long time, just based on momentum shifts. And I say one of the greatest games because, again, Indians and Cubs of the 2016 World Series is a tough pill to swallow or a tough act to follow. But I think if you ask for an act to follow, I think Game 4 is one. I think the only thing that takes that away is the fact that Game 4 was not a Game 7. It was a Game 4. If it was a Game 7, ooh boy, that would have overtaken as one of the best games ever. But let's talk about Game 6. And it's interesting because I'm going to get into something a little bit further. But we'll start with the first elephant in the room. And that's the Tampa Bay Rays decision and Kevin Cash's decision to take Blake Snell out. And this is something that is hurting baseball as far as the analytics and how much reliability analytics is taking in regards to the game of baseball. And don't get me wrong, I'm a statistical type person. I like to think logically. But there comes a time where you have to look and you have to get a feel for the moments. And I feel like analytics should be a 50-50, sort of like a marriage. It's a 50-50, and I'm not married. I am single. So do I know exactly from experience what I'm talking about? Not necessarily. I hear marriage should be 50-50. Let's put it that way. It's a give and take. And I feel like it's a compromise too. So I think, especially in the postseason, it's a 50-50. Analytics on 50%, and then 50% is the feel of the moment. Blake Snell is dealing. He gives up a second hit to to Austin Barnes. It's the sixth inning. There's one out. Mookie Betts is coming up in a top of the lineup where Blake Snell just absolutely devoured in game 2 too. So it's not like he struggled in game 2 against the top of the lineup and then on Tuesday just dominated them. You know, he had handled that lineup pretty well on both starts. So I understand analytics will say, hey, it's not good when a starter goes and faces the lineup 3 times. And that's true. That's true for anything. More times I feel like, and I'm not, I would ask pitchers and hitters, but I feel like if you, as a hitter, if you face a pitcher a third time, you have a better chance of being successful than you are during the first time. That's why more often than not, you're going to see pitchers on base percentage and batting average against are higher the third time around because batters get to know them. So from an analytical standpoint, yes, it does make sense. But at the same time, you're facing elimination. Your starter is dealing, and there's no indication that tells you that Blake Snell is starting to fall back. There's no indication. He gives up a base hit to Austin Barnes, and it wasn't even that hard of a base hit either. And my question is, let's say he gets Austin Barnes to record it out, and you get 2 outs in the 6th inning. Are you still taking Blake Snell out, who's allowed 1 hit? That, to me, makes absolutely no sense. You have to have a feel for the game. You have to have a feel for the moment. And that's where the analytics are hurting the game of baseball because they're taking that emotion out of it. They're taking that emotion and pulling it out. And basically, you're dealing with computers. I mean, you're turning the game of baseball into a game of robots. I mean, there's no other way to put it. There's absolutely nowhere to put it. You're not thinking for yourself. You're thinking based on what a flowchart's telling you what to do, but you're not thinking with emotion. And you say, well, I've seen this before. Yeah, you've seen it before, not only Blake Snell in the ALCS, but let's flash back to, Game 5 of the World Series. Clayton Kershaw takes a stroll back to the dugout. And Dave Roberts goes to his bullpen. And I will say this, the only difference of the reason that Kevin Cash is getting heavily criticized after the math, while Dave Roberts did get criticized, is because it worked out in Game 5 for Dave Roberts. Dodgers bullpen did what they needed to do and came out with a victory. While in Game 6, Nick Anderson immediately struggled as he went to the mound. And so you ask, and one of the questions I ask is, okay, let's say Snell is left in, and then Mookie Betts goes deep. Now it's 2-1 Dodgers. Are you thinking to yourself, man, I really wish? I'll be honest with you, no. I think I leave Blake Snell in, obviously, And if he gives up a 2-run homer to Mookie Betts, then that's where you give credit to Mookie Betts and say, you know what? Betts made adjustments. He looked completely flat in his 2 at-bats against Blake Snell. He made an adjustment, and he went deep. But at least at that point, you're looking at it and say, you know what? Blake Snell was dealing. And he threw 1 bad pitch to Mookie Betts, or he threw 1 bad pitch to Corey Seager, or he didn't get much run support. But what you're doing is you're not letting, how can I say this? What you're doing is you're preventing your best players from delivering in big moments. And you think about, in the past, the postseason heroes in the game of baseball. Blake Snell could have been that, and he gets deprived because analytics tell him, no, you shouldn't do that. And I understand the Rays and the Dodgers are the 2 top analytical teams, and yes, that's what got him to the World Series. I understand that. But this is where analytics bit you in the butt. I want to make another example on there. And you see guys, and I'm going to use Joey Gallo for an example. How many times do you see Joey Gallo does lay down a bunt? Does analytics tell him to do that? I don't think so. Analytics isn't going to tell Joey Gallo, hey, drop down a bunt in the 7th inning when you're down by 3 and you've got 8 outs to work with or 9 outs to work with. But do you know why Gallo will drop down a bunt in a situation like that? Possibly. It's because a solo homer is not going to do anything. Because at that point, you need base runners. And so it's more beneficial for the Texas Rangers on that given day for Joey Gallo to stand on first base than to try to smack one out of the park and turn a 3-run game in the 7th to a 2-run game. That's the same thing in the analytics is not going to tell you that. So on Tuesday's game 6, leaving Blake Snell out there, yeah, that goes against analytics, but you're trusting your starter. And what's that going to do in the future for Blake Snell? Thinking to himself, my manager doesn't trust me. My manager is trusting what a baseball guru analytical logic over my ability. He does not trust what I am capable on the mound. I gave him 5 1/3 shutout quality innings, and that's still not good enough. By the way, Snell had 73 pitches, 72 or 73. And also in game 1, I believe, he let Tyler Glasnow throw over 110 pitches. So pitch count, again, the only reason Snell got taken out was because he was facing that lineup for a 3rd time, despite handling them. So it was an awful decision. And hopefully it's not going to do this because, everybody's in their analytical world, but it's not going to change philosophies in the future. In fact, I think you're still going to continue that trend. There's another aspect of yesterday that really stung into the baseball world. And it was announced late in the game, I believe after the game actually, because at the end of the 7th inning, the Dodgers made a change by taking out Justin Turner. Justin Turner was taken out of the game, replaced essentially by Kike Hernandez, and then Edwin Rios took over at 3rd for Los Angeles. And then you ask yourself, well, wait, what? I'll be honest, I didn't really notice it. I didn't notice it until I looked at the Dodger lineup in the bottom of the 8th inning. And I saw that Kike Hernandez was batting 3rd, and Edwin Rios was at number 8 in the lineup. As Edwin Rios overtook A.J. Pollock's spot in the lineup. He was pinch hit for by Jock Peterson. Well, news came out that Justin Turner tested positive for COVID. And from the reports that I'm hearing, and again, I hear somewhat different things as we go. I'm hearing one thing and then I'm hearing another, but I've actually pulled up Jeff Passan's tweet from late last night at about, coincidentally, 11:11 Central Time. So Justin Turner took a COVID test on Monday. In the second inning, it was revealed that test came back inconclusive. Turner then did another test on Tuesday. And they found out, I guess, late in the 7th or just after the 7th, that it came up positive, in which was why Turner was removed. I don't know what the status is as of Wednesday, October 28th. I don't know if the Dodgers and the Rays are still in the Arlington area. I don't know any of that. But there's a couple of issues that have. First of all, Justin Turner, yes, we all know that he went back out, was not part of the initial celebration, but then came back out and celebrated with his team. I am 50-50 on Justin Turner himself. And the reason I say 50-50 is because yes, should he be on the field while he tested positive for COVID? Absolutely not. He shouldn't. Should he be a little bit more aware of his surroundings, saying, hey, I could potentially be infecting everybody on my team? Yes, of course. You have to be more aware. But are you really going to tell a man whose organization has won the World Series for the first time in 32 years, and it's your first World Series champion in a position where you may never be in your entire baseball career, where guys dream of, and you can't celebrate with your team? First of all, nobody stopped him. So heck yeah. If I'm in that position, I'm going to leave the clubhouse or wherever he was having to isolate, and I'm going to go on the field and I'm going to join it with my teammates. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And he probably wasn't thinking that he tested positive when he was on the field, when he was kissing his wife. He probably didn't think that. He probably didn't think, hey, I tested positive for COVID. This is probably a bad idea. All that's taken out. So no. The more I don't blame him. But you know who I do blame? I blame Major League Baseball. I blame Major League Baseball security. How was there no security? Did they just give up? Was there nobody not existed? My other problem is, if the test came back inconclusive in the second inning, first of all, why did it take that long for a test to come back? He had taken it, and I assume it was Monday afternoon at the latest. So how did it take 24 to 28 hours for a test to come back? Because right now, your only focus is on two teams. And remember, they delayed, and this is back in early August when the Marlins were infected. Their first game back against Baltimore, they actually had to delay that game between the Marlins and Orioles about, I think it was like half an hour, because they were still waiting for Marlins test results. Are you going to delay the World Series? Well, if it's based on a COVID test, yeah. I'm sorry, but yeah. If it's based on a COVID test, you may have a COVID outbreak. So one of the players may be testing positive. So I don't know why it took that long for the results to come back, first off. Second off, in the second inning, if it came back inconclusive, that's Major League Baseball's first cue to say, hey, Justin Turner can't play until we know for a fact that Turner is negative. Let me ask you guys this. If your employer asks you, you need to take a COVID test, and you take it and you tell your employer it came back inconclusive, do you really think your employer is going to be like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, you can be around everybody. No need to distance yourself. You'll take another test, but for now, we're just going to assume you're clean. That's not how it works. So Major League Baseball screwed up. They screwed up dearly. Now, does that call for the Los Angeles Dodgers to be taking away their World Series title? No, that's a little too harsh. First of all, Justin Turner went 0 for 3 in Game 6, and he really didn't produce. I think he maybe got a couple of grounders to him, but I'll be honest, Game 6, Justin Turner didn't have an impact offensively. So I don't think Justin Turner being out of the lineup really would have done too much. Now, maybe it would have, you move everybody up in the lineup. Max Muncy bats third. Yes, you play the what if game. Anything can happen. But as far as the simple-minded, I guess, linear thought process goes, Justin Turner's impact on Game 6 as from an offensive and defensive standpoint didn't really stand out. So I think saying that he should be deprived of his title and the team should be is a bit harsh. But man, guys, think about what would happen if the Rays won. Think about the situation that Major League Baseball would be in. When Game 7, I'll tell you this, Game 7 wouldn't have been played on Wednesday. There's no way Game 7 would have been played on Wednesday if there's a positive test from Justin Turner. And one final thought on that is if the Rays had won, everything that happened after the game, the celebrations, all of that obviously doesn't happen because the Dodgers would be celebrating a Game 6 loss. They'd be playing Game 7. But who knows? Game 7 could have been on Thursday, could have been Friday, could have been next week. Both teams would have had to stay in Arlington another week so that they're cleared to play. So think about that. Major League Baseball dodged a huge bullet because now you're playing the investigation what-if game, but the season's over. Postseason is over. You have a whole 4 months of recovery in the offseason to get ready for the 2021 season. So it's almost like Major League Baseball is breathing a sigh of relief. So I ask, is there going to be any repercussions? I don't know. I honestly don't think that at worst, the Dodgers or Justin Turner is going to receive a fine. They're going to get fined at worst. You're not going to get deprived of a draft pick. You're not going to get deprived of any suspensions. You're not going to suspend Justin Turner for his actions. And if so, maybe one game. I mean, it's not even worth one game going into the 2021 season. That's absurd. For an action that's stupid. So at worst, the Dodgers as an organization are going to get fined. I think that's it. If anything, and again, that's if anything happens. So all I can say is it's something to kind of think about in the next few days. And I guarantee you that in February and March, when 2021 season begins, there will be people that won't even remember that this even happens. It's fresh on everybody's mind because it's such a bizarre developing story happening right after the World Series, and it's fresh on everybody's noggin. The only thing I would hope for is in the future, that won't be the only World Series celebration that takes place at Globe Life Field, and that the next one is not due to a neutral site. It's a question I ask. Should neutral site World Series occur? This was the first one. And I mean, I think it does help on the travel. Do I think that it's going to happen? No. I think Super Bowl neutral sites are different because it is one game, it's one event. World Series is a little different. NBA Finals, Stanley Cup, obviously all three of those this year are in bubbles because of the pandemic. But will there be in the future a neutral site hosting for all three of those events? Who knows? I mean, I doubt that may happen, but we'll see on that. I'm actually curious to see if that is a possibility. But yeah, I think you could run into, especially with those three sports being more localized than the NFL, than the NCAA tournaments, that you'll see in the future neutral site World Series, neutral site NBA Finals, neutral site Stanley Cups. But congratulations to the Los Angeles Dodgers for a great run at the postseason, and of course, congratulations to the Tampa Bay Lightning. Great job by the Dallas Stars putting up a big fight in the Stanley Cup, and congratulations to the Los Angeles Lakers for the NBA title. One little final thought. I want to shift quick gears to the Dallas Stars. Speaking of, who came out with the neon green jerseys and black? I don't know what to make of it. All I can think of is that will look pretty cool when it's dark. I don't think it's going to look as cool when the lights are on. It's a little glow in the dark. I don't know. It seems like the Stars got a huge deal with Monster Energy, to be quite honest. So I'm not as big of a fan of it. You guys may be a fan of it. Personally, to me, I don't particularly care for it. But who knows? I was wrong about other stuff too. I thought that the baby blue combination of the hat and the jersey was the best, but it turns out the red hat really complements as far as the Texas Rangers go. So I've been wrong on uniform combinations before. I've been wrong about a lot of stuff. So I appreciate you guys listening in. Again, episode 15 of Texas Rangers Fanatic podcast. And again, if you want to listen to this podcast, I post them on YouTube. It's also available on Anchor and other places where you can locate podcasts. I'll try to kind of get one every so often during the off season, especially when big news is coming. Still trying to get some guests on. Appreciate you guys listening. And again, for more Texas Rangers coverage, you can go to DallasSportsFanatic.com/Texas-Rangers. Follow me on Twitter at APlinkTX and a little bit of Instagram at APlinkTEX. You guys have a great off season and stay warm in the Dallas area. Everybody stays safe while things, who knows if they're dying down or getting back up as far as the pandemic goes. We just hope everybody is being safe. You all enjoy.